Well, hey guys. It looks like I'm live. I'm trying something new. This is obviously a new space, and I'm just trying to pull up the live on my Facebook feed so that I can see any questions or anything like that. And it's being ridiculously slow at the moment. So, while I'm figuring out how to pull this up or how to pull it up quick enough, um, you can watch me mumble and grumble about as I fumble around trying to find what in the Helensky is going on. Okay, I got it. Yay! Okay, so generally, I do my Facebook Lives out in the living room area, dining room kind of space in the house. But it gets a little loud at times, and I clearly have a focusing issue. And so we spent I've wanted to do it for a couple of months now, but we spent the morning kind of rearranging some rooms around the house. And now I have a space where I can shut the door. Occasionally I'll let an animal come in, to greet you guys and tell you how awesome you are, because that's what dogs are great for. But hopefully this will be a little quieter. It's a little awkward because normally I stand and do these, because if I sit, I look like a statue and it's very awkward for you and me both. So I will try to keep my movements functional, I guess. All right. Well, you see the blog somewhere. So tonight we're talking about cholesterol and inflammation. Oh, really? I think it's cholesterol and gut health. Maybe I titled this bad boy wrong. Let's see. Yeah, so cholesterol and gut health. Yeah, so we're linking the two. So let's just kind of chat a little. I talk about gut health all the time. And there's obviously a reason why I do it, because it is the gateway to a lot of disease that we have. If you guys have heard of Hippocrates, if you ever talk about like physicians, they all have to take the Hippocratic Oath when they graduate med school. But Hippocrates is been coined the father of medicine. He lived in I want to say 400-ish BC time era. Anyway, he coined a phrase that said all disease begins in the gut. And what's really interesting is a lot of the things that he noted are actually kind of coming back to what we're finding is the truth today. So as we go on, if you have any questions, go ahead and pop those into the comments. I am, and let me make sure. Yes, I am monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions, I will make sure that I answer those for you. If I don't get to them while we are live, I will definitely answer them after the fact. And if you are watching this after the fact and you have some questions, pop them below and I will get to them. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sunny Brigham. I'm a board certified clinical and integrative nutritionist, and I have a master's of science in clinical nutrition. And tonight, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. I am wearing my slippers. I'm also in my Pilates gear from this morning because, like I said, we've been kind of moving things around, and I haven't really changed or done anything like that. So let's get to it. So let's talk about cholesterol. So there's a lot of reasons why cholesterol can be elevated. By and large, inflammation is probably the number one. People that tend to have hypothyroid, they will see an increase in their cholesterol levels. Women that are postmenopausal will also see an increase in cholesterol levels. The reason for the hypothyroid in the menopause, typically, to kind of baseline it, is cholesterol. We need cholesterol to move hormones about the body. In hypothyroid, we tend to have a lack of hormones. Menopause, we have a lack of hormones. And so we have this cholesterol that's not really doing anything. So it's just kind of hanging around the blood going, hey guys, what do you need me to do? But there's no hormones for them to kind of shuttle about. And so we tend to produce much more than we are needing at that time. In postmenopausal women, sometimes we can get it to even out. It just needs a little time to catch up, but it's pretty common. And then hypothyroid, usually if you can get the thyroid under control, the cholesterol will start to come down as well. But I see a lot of people that will say things like, You know, that I have high cholesterol, but, you know, my parents had high cholesterol too, so I think it's genetic. Actually, of all the people that have high cholesterol, really only about 5% of those are actually genetically linked to being high. So if you have a genetic link to high cholesterol, you're not just going to have high triglycerides, or you're not just going to have high LDL, or you're not going to just have high total cholesterol. The entire gamut of all of your cholesterols are going to be high. That means you're going to have high HDL, which is your good cholesterol. So everything is going to be high. That's a sure sign that it's tried and true, actually a genetic link to cholesterol, or to high cholesterol. So when we have high cholesterol, your first thought should not be, it's because my parents had it, or it's because my grandparents had it. It should be, what's going on in my body that's causing my cholesterol to spike. The second thing that people think about is, it has to be my diet. I must be consuming too much red meat. Now, I'm not an advocate of red meat, obviously. For those of you that know me, know that I'm vegan. Those of you that don't, surprise, I'm vegan. But it's still very high in saturated fat. So I tell people to limit your red meat as much as possible, not because of the cholesterol, but because of the saturated fat content. But we make about 80% of our own cholesterol. So our body does really good at balancing these things out. And I am almost blind because this light is like super bright. So we produce about 80% of our cholesterol. And when we consume more through our diet, our body recognizes that we have more in the system, and so it produces less. So we're super good about keeping, you know, that checks and balances system in the body. But what really can drive up your cholesterol is the foods that you consume, not the foods that have high cholesterol, but the foods that cause inflammation. Let me just make sure I'm online with the blog here. I tend to shoot off at the mouth and kind of get on a side tangent. Yeah, so by and large, inflammation is what causes high cholesterol. So if you have high cholesterol, here's a good tip for you. I wrote a blog last year, and I mean, it's an epic blog. The sucker's like 5,000 words. But it tells you every reason that you can have high cholesterol and everything that you can do to lower your high cholesterol. It is linked in this blog that is somewhere around your screen on this slide. If you click it in the first part of the blog, it'll talk about the epic blog. And you click that, it'll take you to the other blog. There's a little sign up where you can get like my 13-page guide on reducing cholesterol. So that's my spiel there as far as that. So when we talk about cholesterol, your cholesterol is high if you are not a postmenopausal woman, if you do not have hypothyroid, your first thought should be, what foods am I consuming that's sparking inflammation in my body? So not what foods am I consuming that's high in cholesterol, but what foods am I consuming that's causing inflammation in the body? And here's why. And I've talked about this ad nauseum. About 70 to 80% of our immune system lies in the digestive tract. It's there for good reason. We eat a bunch of crud on our food all the time. Look at the romaine lettuce fiasco. I'm sure people ate, you know, lots of E. coli in the last several weeks and didn't get sick, but some person did. So they tested the lettuce, and now they, you know, everybody's up in arms over the lettuce, the romaine lettuce. But the immune system is there to neutralize all of these pathogens that we're consuming on our food. And so when we are consuming foods that the body doesn't agree with, the immune system kicks off the immune response and says, hey guys, we've got something here we don't like, shouldn't be in the body, we need to neutralize it. Every time the immune system is activated, the inflammatory system is activated as well. And so if you think about, you know, a cut on your skin or on, you know, on the surface of the body, something that you can see inflammation in action. Like I've got a gnarly blister from, I picked up a pot of boiling potatoes stupidly on Thanksgiving morning because I have stainless steel pots. So I don't have, you know, the handles that are nice and covered. And I didn't think the pot was that hot. I went to go pick it up and I got a blister. But obviously, I don't think that you guys can see this, but it's nice and popped and it's gnarly. I'm not, you know, flipping anybody off. I'm just showing you my blister. And you can see, so that's all the inflammatory response. My immune system came to the surface. It created a nice scab so that nothing can get in, no bacteria, no pathogens, nothing can come into the bloodstream that way. But all the redness around it, that's all the inflammatory response. So every time we kick off the immune system, we are also kicking off the inflammatory response. Over time, so imagine this right here inside your digestive tract, right? So imagine angry and the red, and you've got these nice tight junctions that keep the digestive tract closed off from the rest of the body. But when you have all this inflammation, those tight junctions become loose junctions, things start flowing out into the bloodstreams, things such as pro-inflammatory cytokines that start wreaking havoc on the body and causing systemic inflammation, which leads to high cholesterol. So when we think about the foods that we're consuming in relation to cholesterol, we shouldn't be thinking, I can't have eggs, I can't have meat anymore, I can't have red meat, I can't have hot dogs, I can't have anything that contains cholesterol because my cholesterol is high. What you should be thinking is, what part of my diet is heavily processed, sugar-laden, or contains the top 12 pro-inflammatory foods? Those foods are, and let me see if I can remember them off the top of my head. So we've got eggs, gluten, and gluten is wheat, barley, spelt, and rye. There's a couple of other peripheral ones, but those are the common ones. So I think I started with, so eggs, gluten, dairy, pork, beef, processed meats like hot dogs, lunch meats, those sorts of things, white sugar, table sugar, corn, caffeine, which is coffee, tea, or chocolate. I think I got them all, right? So, but if you look at that, right? So eggs and red meat were in there, which are high cholesterol foods, but those aren't in there because they're high cholesterol foods. They are in there because those foods tend to activate people's immune system. Like for me, I've not had an egg in years. But if I were to eat an egg yolk, I have a sensitivity to egg yolk, and so it would activate my immune system. It wouldn't cause inflammation because it has cholesterol. It would cause inflammation because it activates my immune system. Now, occasionally having these foods, activating the immune system, it's not going to create an environment where your intestines are just red and angry and things are floating out into the bloodstream. That takes years of damage or even months of repeated things happening in the body. So if you are sensitive to a food, you can still have, treats and cookies, cakes, candies, those sorts of things as treats in moderation. But when we have a lifestyle where we're consistently consuming these foods that are activating the immune system, we are kicking up our immune system, kicking off the inflammatory response, creating an environment where the tight junctions now become loose and pathogens and pro-inflammatory cytokines are kind of now streaming out throughout the entire bloodstream, right? So we're causing problems there. And I just had a thought I wanted to share with you, and I can't remember what it was. Let me see if I can remember. Probably, oh, I did, yes. Okay, so we see this a lot in people that have IBS, will typically also have high cholesterol. And the reason being is because IBS or even IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, which comes with, in the IBD realm, you have Crohn's, you have ulcerative colitis. In IBS, you have IBS-D, which is IBS diarrhea. You have IBS-C, which is IBS constipation. So people that have the inflammatory bowel issues, they will sometimes have high cholesterol, not all the time, but sometimes will have high cholesterol because of this habitual state of inflammation in their digestive tract. And I say not all the time because these conditions can kind of go to sleep. They can go to remission. You can have some nice calmness inside the digestive tract. But when you have a perpetual state of inflammation, like uncontrolled Crohn's, uncontrolled ulcerative colitis, uncontrolled IBS, you have an environment that's basically breeding systemic inflammation in the body. Let me see. I think that was the main points. I tended to kind of shoot off at the mouth quite a bit. I do that often. And then I lose track of where I'm at. Do you like my smiley face cup? All my other fun cups are in the dishwasher. Let's see. Okay. So when I have somebody that comes to me that has high cholesterol, and it's really not true genetic high cholesterol, they're not a postmenopausal woman, and they do not have hypothyroidism, we will start targeting gut inflammation. So we might start small, right? So let's say they have a really inflammatory diet, meaning that they're eating a lot of processed foods, they eat out a lot, they're taking in, you know, lots of chips and lots of cakes and cookies and candies and those sorts of things. We might start reducing very slowly their sugar intake or their alcohol intake or their food intake that's causing the inflammation in the digestive tract. Typically, I like to add foods before I take foods away from people. So if somebody comes to me and they're consuming a standard American diet, I might say things like, hey, let's increase your vegetable intake, or let's try to eat a healthier breakfast, or let's eat a healthier lunch before we'll start saying, okay, let's limit the intake of this. Let's exchange this for this. So we add before we subtract. Sometimes that helps, by and large, bring down some of the inflammation. So once we remove the inflammatory foods that they're consuming, their inflammation in the digestive tract will start to calm down. Sometimes we need to take it a step further and do testing specifically to see what foods they're consuming that's activating the immune system in the digestive tract. And the reason being is not everybody has, well, I won't say not everybody, most people have foods that cause their immune system to activate, but we may not be consuming those. Like in my case, egg yolks cause my immune system to activate, but I don't eat eggs. So that really doesn't matter to me. That's not really a factor. I don't have high cholesterol, but if I did, that wouldn't be a factor for my high cholesterol. So just because a food activates the immune system doesn't necessarily mean it's a contributing factor to your high cholesterol. But usually we can get cholesterol to come down just by simply changing the diet to be from a pro-inflammatory diet to an anti-inflammatory diet. And then sometimes we have to take it a step further. Maybe there's years of damage in the digestive tract that the body just can't repair itself. And so we'll do a little bit of testing, we'll use some targeted supplements, and we'll go from there to see what is causing the immune system to continually activate in the digestive tract. And then we'll start to remove those foods, do a little bit of digestive healing, and then typically we'll see the cholesterol start to come in play or start to come down from there. Let's see. Jackie said, I have like, because I'm staring at this light that lights up the room, and now I have like the circles in my eyes. So I feel like, let me see if I can read this. So Jackie says, I've seen ads for home tests to see what foods you shouldn't eat. And then she has a question mark. So I'm assuming maybe you're asking if those are viable tests, good tests. So I don't really have an opinion on those tests, mainly because I don't really know a whole lot about them. I mean, I know what they are. I don't know. Okay, let me back up here. So when we test the immune response, right? So you've got 4 things that typically will kick off. So you've got an IgA, an IgE, an IgM, and an IgG reaction. So an IgA, I just wrote this down somewhere. So an IgE is like a no shit allergy. So you're going to have like an allergic reaction to that food. IgG is a food reaction. An IgM and IgA, those activate very specific parts of the immune system, and I can't for the life of me recall what they are right now. The test that I use does not test for IgE, which is a true food allergy. So IgG, IgM, and see, in the commercials, like, test your food at home for $49. We'll test 100 foods. Those are typically only going to be foods that slightly activate the immune system. You really only need to be concerned about foods that have a very severe reaction in the immune system or even a moderate reaction. Very mild reactions, because everybody has those, I wouldn't be concerned about it. But that's part of the problem with these at-home test kits, is they only test the IgG, and then you don't really know, okay, so what level are these foods? Do I really need to be concerned about it? Because if you only test, let's say, like a +1 on an egg yolk, but you test a +4 on wheat, those aren't going to activate the immune system in the same manner. You should definitely remove the wheat. it's questionable whether you should remove the egg yolk. Hopefully that makes sense. And then some of these labs, not all labs are made the same and not all tests are made the same. So before I use a test, I like to research the lab. I like to see what their exact testing process is. Maybe there's some contamination in the lab. Maybe it's not really, you know, like kind of like a mobile setup sort of thing. So I think all of that has to be properly researched before you can go and say, okay, this is the test kit I'm going to use, or this is the lab I'm going to use. And kind of go from there. And Jackie, she said, I always think scam first, and it's not just the food as the problem. I learned from you I needed other supplements. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you're welcome. Yes. So some of it, you know, I would say for people that really can't afford good quality testing, I wouldn't rule it out, but I also wouldn't base your entire life around this, you know, at home type test kit. And then Kim said, is food the only thing that would cause the inflammation and gut issues, or could it be wound and injury? It could be wound and injury, right? So it could be that you have, you know, something on the surface of the body or the skin or something like that that's causing pathogens to come in the body. The problem is, though, is that if you have that, and remember, 70 to 80% of the immune system lies inside the intestinal tract. And so it's going to amount to defense there, and then it's going to send the communication to the rest of the body. Or the other, you know, 20 to 30% of the immune system is going to come to that area. If I see somebody in my office and they have a perpetual wound that won't heal, I don't think that's the source of the problem. I think, okay, we need to heal the gut, because that's pulling a lot of your resources away from allowing this wound to heal. You either have underactivation or overactivation of the immune system. And since the majority of the immune system lies within the intestinal tract, that makes sense. It's a good place to start. So if I see a wound like that, I don't think this is the source of your inflammation. I think that's a sign we've got inflammation elsewhere. Let's go ahead and start cleaning up the diet. Let's start healing the digestive tract. And then hopefully that will allow the wound to start heal. I have a lot of digestive problems. I have IBS, I have overgrowth of bacteria, so I have a lot of problems. By and large, they're under control, but I know when I'm having problems because I have a cut here in the crease of my nose that will open up. And when it opens up, then my IBS will flare up. So I don't think that that is the source of my intestinal issues. But to me, that's an indication that, okay, I have angered my immune system. Let me back off here and kind of regroup. And then that will start to close. Hopefully that answered your question, Kim. Okay, so I don't see any other questions at the moment. So if you have high cholesterol, don't immediately, unless you're postmenopausal, unless you have hypothyroidism, and again, high cholesterol with both of those conditions can be completely controlled. It's not like I'm postmenopausal, that's why I have high cholesterol, but it can be an answer. If you have high cholesterol, and if it is not tried and true genetic linked, meaning all of your levels are high, definitely take a look at the source of your diet, what you're consuming that can be an inflammatory, and start kind of changing it, adding in some vegetables, adding in some fruits, adding in some whole grains, changing out the high saturated fat foods, the inflammatory foods, that list of 12 foods I went over, for good anti-inflammatory foods. So lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of whole grains, lots of healthy fats. All of that's going to help reduce the inflammation in the digestive tract, get the immune system back in check, and allow for your cholesterol to come down a little bit. So hopefully that helped you guys out a little bit. If you have any questions, like I said, you can go ahead and post them below. And if you haven't read the blog yet, definitely read the blog, and I will see you guys around. I hope you have a fabulous week and a wonderful weekend as we go into December, and I'll see you guys next week. Let me find my window here because I don't know where I'm at. All right, there it is. All right, you guys have a good night. Bye.